Listen carefully. If you believe that working harder at your job will eventually make you rich, you've already lost. Not because you're lazy, not because you're not smart enough, but because the game you're playing was never designed for you to win. Think about it. Every single morning, you wake up to an alarm you didn't choose. You rush through your routine. You show up somewhere you have to be, not somewhere you want to be. And then you trade, not skills, not passion. You trade your time, hour by hour or day by day, year after year, for money. And somewhere deep inside, there's a quiet belief that all of this will lead to something, that one day, if you just keep going, keep working, keep pushing, you'll finally be free. But what if that one day never comes? What if the harder you work, the deeper you sink? Because this isn't just a job, it's a system that silently decides much you earn, how much you spend, and how long you stay exactly where you are. And the most dangerous part? You don't even see it. You think you're building your future, but in reality, you're building a cage. The end of this video, you won't see money the same way again. Look at your life for a second. Not the version you show people, not the one you post online, the real one. You wake up tired, even after sleeping. You check your phone, emails, messages, notifications. Before your day even begins, you're already behind. You rush through the morning, maybe skip breakfast, maybe tell yourself you'll fix your routine someday. But that day never comes because there's no time. There's always something waiting for you. Work, deadlines, meetings, people telling you what matters and what doesn't. And slowly, without even noticing, your entire life becomes scheduled, controlled, predictable. You start living in blocks of time, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, waiting for the weekend, just to recover from the week. And when the weekend finally comes, you're too tired to do anything meaningful. So you distract yourself, scroll, watch, consume. Then Sunday night hits, and that feeling returns, that quiet anxiety in your chest that something about this life isn't right, but you ignore it. Because what's the alternative? This is what everyone does. This is what you were told to do. Go to school, get a job, be responsible. So you keep going, day after day, year after year, telling yourself this is just how life is. But deep down, you know it isn't. You're not living, you're repeating. From the very beginning, you were given a script, a simple one. Study hard, get good grades, find a stable job, and everything will work out. That's what they told you. Your parents believed it. Your teachers repeated it. Society rewarded it. So you followed it. You did what you were supposed to do. You stayed disciplined. You stayed patient. You did everything right. And for a while, it felt like it was working. You got the job. You started earning. You became independent. But something didn't match the promise because the life you were building didn't feel like freedom. It felt like pressure. Bills started showing up. Responsibilities multiplied. Expectations got heavier. And suddenly, that stable job wasn't giving you security. It was creating dependence. You couldn't stop. You couldn't slow down. You couldn't take risks because now you had something to lose. And that's when it happens. The moment no one warns you about, you realize you didn't choose this path. You were guided into it, carefully, quietly, step by step, not because it was the best path for you, but because it was the safest path for the system. And safe doesn't mean free. A salary feels safe. That's the illusion. Every month, money shows up in your account. Predictable, stable, reassuring. It gives you a sense of control, like you've made it, like you're doing things right. But look closer. That number isn't freedom. It's a limit, a fixed value placed on your time, your energy, your entire life. No matter how hard you work, there's a ceiling, a number you're not supposed to cross. And if you want more, you don't get leverage. You get more hours, more stress, more responsibility, more of your life traded away. And here's the part nobody says out loud: the more you depend on your salary, the less power you actually have. Because the moment it stops, everything stops. Your lifestyle, your stability, your sense of security, gone. So you protect it, you hold on to it, you become careful, you avoid risk, you avoid change, you stay where it feels safe, even if that place is slowly draining you. And the system loves that, because a predictable worker is easy to control, easy to replace, easy to keep exactly where they are. You think your salary is supporting your life, but in reality, it's controlling it. Let's be honest. You don't really earn money. You sell your time. Every hour you work has a price, a fixed number attached to it. And once that hour's gone, It's gone forever. You can earn more money, but you can never earn more time. And yet, you keep trading the only thing that truly matters for something that can be printed, controlled, and taken away. Think about it. If you stop working today, how long can you survive? A month? 2? Maybe less, because your entire life is built on one fragile equation. No time, no money, and no money means no freedom. That's not income, that's dependency. You're not building wealth, you're maintaining survival. Just enough to keep going, just enough to stay in the system, and the worst part? It feels normal, because everyone around you is doing the same thing. Selling their time, waiting for the next paycheck, counting days until the weekend. Not realizing they're slowly running out of the one thing they can never replace, time. And once you understand this, you can't ignore it anymore, because now you see the truth. You're not getting paid for your time. You're giving your life away in pieces. At this point, you might be thinking something feels off. And you're right, because this isn't random. It's not bad luck. It's not your fault. It's a system that was built long before you were born, and it works exactly as intended, just not in your favor. From the moment you enter school, you're trained to follow instructions, sit still, raise your hand, ask for permission. You're rewarded for obedience, not for questioning, not for thinking differently. Then you grow up, and nothing really changes. You just enter a different version of the same structure. Now it's called a job. You still follow rules, still answer to someone, still trade time for approval. Only now there's money involved, just enough to keep you going, but never enough to let you escape. Because if everyone escaped, the system would collapse. It needs workers, consistent, predictable, replaceable workers. People who up on time, show up every day and don't ask too many questions, and the system doesn't force you. That's what makes it powerful. It convinces you. It gives you just enough comfort to keep you from leaving. A stable income, a routine, a sense of normality. So you stay, not because you have to, but because you feel like you should. And that's the trap. The system doesn't control you by force. It controls you by design. The people who work the hardest are not the ones getting rich. They're the ones staying stuck. Welcome to the middle class, the most disciplined, the most responsible, the most overworked group of people. In the entire system, they do everything right. They get the job, they build a career, they try to save, they try to be smart with money, and yet years pass, and nothing really changes. Why? Because the middle class lives in a dangerous illusion. Not poor enough to panic, not rich enough to be free, just comfortable enough to stay. They can pay their bills, maybe afford small luxuries, maybe take a vacation once a year, but they're always one problem away from falling apart. One job loss, one unexpected expense, one bad decision, and everything collapses. So they stay careful, they avoid risk, they play it safe, they follow the same path over and over again. And that's exactly why they never escape, because the system doesn't trap you with pain. It traps you with comfort, a controlled level of comfort, just enough to keep you quiet, just enough to keep you working, but never enough to make you truly free. The middle class isn't a step toward freedom. For most people, it's where the journey ends. You were told education is the key to success, the key to freedom, the key to a better life. So you invested years of your life into it, studying, memorizing, passing exams, doing exactly what you were told. And at the end of it, you expected something powerful, a real advantage, a real opportunity. But what did you actually get? A degree. And in many cases, debt, because no one told you the truth. Education doesn't teach you how to build wealth. It teaches you how to fit into the system, how to follow structure, how to meet expectations, how to become employable, not independent, not financially free, just qualified to work for someone else. You learn how to solve problems, but not how to create value at scale. You learn how to pass tests, but not how money actually works. And the moment you graduate, you step straight into the same loop. Find a job, earn a salary, start paying bills. And if you took loans, now you can't afford to fail. You can't afford to experiment. You can't afford to take risks because you're already behind. So you do what feels safe. You take the job, you follow the path, and just like that, the system locks in. You thought education would set you free, but in reality, it prepared you to stay. Now let's talk about the real chain, Debt, the silent pressure behind your decisions. It starts small. A student loan, a credit card, maybe a car payment, nothing too serious. At least, that's what it feels like, until it grows. Month after month, interest on top of interest, quietly expanding in the background. And suddenly, you're not just working for yourself anymore. You're working to pay what you owe. Every decision becomes limited. Can't quit your job, can't take a break, can't risk losing income because the bills don't stop. The system doesn't need to trap you physically. Debt does it for you. It keeps you predictable. It keeps you obedient. It keeps you running, even when you're exhausted. And here's the irony: is often sold as a tool, a way to upgrade your life, a way to get things faster. But in reality, it trades your future freedom for present comfort. And once you're inside that cycle, it's hard to get out because every payment you make is time from your future already spent. You don't just owe money, you owe time. You finally start earning more, a raise, a promotion, maybe even a better job. And for a moment, it feels like progress, like you're moving forward. But then something strange happens. Everything gets more expensive. Rent goes up, food costs more, bills increase, and slowly, that extra money disappears. You're earning more, but it doesn't feel like it, because you're not just working against your job anymore. You're working against the system itself. Inflation, a hidden force that quietly reduces your purchasing power every single year, without asking, without warning. And while you're trying to climb, it's pulling you back down. So you push harder, work more, earn more, chase the next level, but the finish line keeps moving, always just out of reach. And that's the game. You think you're progressing, but you're just keeping up, running faster to stay in the same place. Because in this system, standing still already means falling behind. At some point, you have to ask the real question. If working harder was the answer, why aren't the hardest workers rich? Why isn't the person working 12 hours a day financially free? Because the rules are different. The wealthy don't play the same game. They don't trade time for money. They don't rely on a single source of income. And most importantly, they don't think like employees. They think in systems, in leverage, in scale. Instead of asking, how can I earn more per hour? They ask, how can I earn without being there? They build assets, things that continue to generate income, even when they're not working. Businesses, investments, ownership. And that's the shift. Not working harder, but building smarter. Because once you stop trading time and start building systems, everything changes. Your income is no longer limited by hours. Your growth is no longer tied to effort alone. And for the first time, freedom becomes possible. The difference isn't effort, it's the game you choose to play. Here's the truth most people avoid. If you stop working, your income stops. That's the definition of active income. And for most people, it's the only income they have, which means their entire life depends on one thing: their ability to keep working every day, without interruption, no breaks, no long pauses, no real freedom, because the moment you stop, the system stops rewarding you. And that's the real trap. You're not building something that grows. You're maintaining something that disappears the moment you step away. Now compare that to how wealth actually works. Passive income. Income that continues, even when you're not there. It doesn't rely on your time. It doesn't pause when you rest. It keeps moving. And that's the difference. One keeps you running, the other keeps paying. But here's the problem. Building passive income takes time. It takes risk. It takes uncertainty. It takes stepping outside what feels safe. And most people never make that shift. They stay where it's predictable, where it feels secure, even if that security comes at the cost of their freedom. Because deep down, they've been taught to survive, not to build. At this point, it's not just about money anymore. It's about your mind, because the biggest barrier isn't the system. It's what the system has trained you to believe. Fear of losing stability, fear of making the wrong move, fear of starting over. So you stay, even when you're unhappy, even when you know something isn't right, because uncertainty feels dangerous and comfort feels safe. But that comfort is carefully designed, a routine that numbs you, a paycheck that reassures you, a lifestyle that keeps you occupied, just enough to stop you from questioning everything. And over time, you stop thinking about alternatives. You stop imagining something different. You stop believing escape is even possible. And that's when the system wins, not when you fail, but when you stop trying to leave. Because the strongest cage is the one you don't see. Your job feels safe. That's why you stay. Not because it fulfills you, not because it excites you, but because it's predictable. You know what to expect. You know what you'll earn. You know how tomorrow looks. And that predictability becomes addictive because it removes uncertainty. It protects you from risk. It gives you a sense of control. But here's the truth. Safety is costing you more than you think. Every year you stay in the same cycle. You lose something you can't measure. Opportunity, time, energy, potential. The version of you that could have built something more slowly fades, replaced by routine, by habit, by comfort. And the longer you stay, the harder it becomes to leave. Because now, you're not just protecting your income. You're protecting your identity, your lifestyle, your image, your sense of stability. So even if you realize the truth, you hesitate, you wait, you tell yourself, maybe later. But later turns into years, and years turn into a life you never meant to live. Comfort doesn't just keep you still, it keeps you small. Look around you. Everyone is doing the same thing. Same routine, same goals, same path. Wake up, go to work, get paid, repeat, and because it's everywhere, it feels normal. It feels right. It feels like the only option, but that's exactly how conditioning works. You don't question it because no one else is questioning it. Your friends follow the same system. Your family believes in the same path. Society rewards the same behavior. So you align, you adjust, you fit in, even if something inside you feels off. Because going against it feels uncomfortable, feels risky, feels wrong. Not because it is wrong, but because you've never seen anything else. And the moment you start thinking differently, you feel it. Doubt, resistance, pressure from others, from yourself. Because now you're stepping outside the pattern, and the system doesn't like that. It doesn't punish you directly. It makes you feel alone. And for most people, that's enough to turn back. Not everyone stays. A small number of people find a way out. Not because they're lucky, not because they had some secret advantage, but because at some point, they stopped accepting the default path. They questioned everything. The job, the system, the idea that this was the only way to live. And that shift changed everything. They started noticing patterns, how money actually flows, who really controls it, where real value is created. And once you see that, you can't go back, because now the system looks different. The job isn't security anymore. It's limitation. The routine isn't stability anymore. It's repetition. And that awareness, it becomes uncomfortable, but it also becomes power, because now you have a choice to stay or to start building something else. And the people who escape, they choose differently, even when it's uncertain, even when it's difficult, even when no one around them understands. Because once you see the truth, staying the same becomes harder than changing. So what do they actually do differently? They stop thinking like workers and start thinking like builders. Instead of trading time, they focus on creating value, something that exists beyond their hours, something that can grow without them being there every second. They build assets, not things they consume, but things that produce, a business, a skill that scales, an audience, investments that compound over time. They understand one simple rule: if your income depends on your presence, it will always be limited. So they change the equation. They take risks, calculated ones, not reckless moves, but intentional steps outside comfort. They experiment, they fail, they adjust, and most importantly, they stay in the game long enough to win, because they know something most people ignore. Wealth isn't built quickly, but it is built deliberately, and every step they take moves them further away from dependency and closer to control. Not control over others, control over their own life. At this point, you might be thinking, so what do I do now? And the answer isn't what you expect. You don't need to quit your job, not yet. That's not the move. The real shift is in how you see it. Your job isn't your future, it's your fuel, a tool, something that supports you while you build something else. Because the goal isn't to escape overnight, it's to stop depending on one source, to slowly create options. Something small at first, a skill, a side project, a second stream of income. Something that doesn't rely on your hours alone. And over time, that small thing grows. It starts generating. It starts expanding. It starts giving you space. Space to think. Space to choose. Space to move differently. And one day, you reach a point where your job is no longer necessary. Not because you took a huge risk, but because you built something stronger, something independent, something that doesn't control you. That's the way out. Not by jumping, but by building. But let's be real for a moment. Most people won't do this, not because they can't, but because they won't. Because it's easier to stay where you are, easier to follow the routine, easier to accept the system, easier to delay change. I'll start next month. I'll do it when things calm down. I just need more time. But time is the one thing you're constantly losing, and the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to start. More responsibilities, more pressure, more reasons to stay stuck, and before you know it, years have passed, nothing changed, except one thing or closer to the end than the beginning. If you keep doing what everyone else does, you'll end up exactly where they are. At the end of all this, there's only one thing left, the truth, not the comfortable version, not the one you've been told your whole life, the real one. Working a job will not make you rich. It might give you stability. It might give you structure. It might even give you a decent life, but it will not give you freedom, because freedom requires control. Control over your time, your income, your decisions, and as long as all three belong to someone else, you're not free, you're managed. Now here's the part that matters. You've seen it, you understand it, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can ignore it, you can delay it, you can go back to your routine tomorrow and pretend nothing changed. Most people will, but if you're still here, watching this, thinking about everything you just heard, then you already know you're not like most people. And that means you have a choice. Stay where it's comfortable or start building something that's yours, something real, something that doesn't disappear the moment you stop working. Because in the end, this isn't about money, it's about your life. And the question is simple. Are you going to spend it working for someone else's future or building your own? The system won't change, but you can.